Hey guys, welcome to my Engineering 2304 project. This is my final project, so let's get started. All right, so my project is a current calculator. For those of you that don't know, current is something you calculate in physics too when you're dealing with circuits and voltage and resistance. It's probably one of the things you do the most and it's like super tedious. So I decided to do this project because one time I was doing my homework and I was just taking forever to calculate these things. So I actually thought, what if there was something online that I could use to calculate this? And well, right around this time, this project came about, so I decided to do that and have my own current calculator. So let's get started. Now, when you start, the first thing that I'm asked is the programming language and framework. I decided to keep it easy and just stay in Python and Jupyter. Why? Because that's the thing we know. That's the thing we've been working on for about 6 months. So it just seemed logic to use that. Now for third-party modules, I didn't go too crazy on them. Originally, I wanted to go crazy, but I realized that it wasn't worth it to go that crazy because it was just complicating it more than it had to be complicated, and it's just making me more susceptible to errors. So I just stay with math and a couple of user-defined functions that I will show you later. Now, when I laid down the pseudocode, I was trying to see how my code would work because this is the first thing I did before I even open Python. I just tried to see what will be like the main steps. So you see, there's a lot of input before you even do anything. Now, once I input everything, so I ask you for the voltage, the number of resistors, how many of those resistors are in parallel? Because if you don't know, there's two ways to calculate resistance in a circuit. There's the easy way, which if everything is in series, meaning all the resistors don't have the same two endpoints, you can just add them up and it's gonna be super easy. But if they do have the same endpoints, that's called parallel. And that's a little bit more complicated. You have to do something like this. You have 1 over resistor 1 plus 1 over resistor 2 plus 1 over resistor 3, and then take that to the power of -1. And then after that, you can add them to these things, to the series resistors. So after I have all my input, I ask you how many resistors are in parallel so I can go to an if statement and see how I would like it to be handled. And then after that, I'll try to calculate for I or current using this formula right here, B equals IR, or in my case, I equals B over R. I'm gonna output the overall current and then ask you for a specific resistor in the system. I'm gonna ask you the resistance of that resistor and the voltage, and I'm gonna give you the specific current for that resistor. Okay. Now let's start here. This is my flow chart. This is super basic. I'm gonna ask you for input. I'm gonna use my user-defined functions, output what you want, and that's about it. It's not too hard. Now here are the couple of user-defined functions I was planning on using before everything started. I had 1, 2, 3. When you see this thing, it's gonna have only 2, and one of them isn't even here because it's just all the previous messages, so you know what's gonna happen. And then this thing is gonna be called input, and it's gonna have all my input, all my math, so all this math, all the if statements, and the actual calculation for current. But yeah, all of this is gonna be included in my one big module that I'm gonna import, that I'm gonna show you actually at the end. Now, from here, when I ask you to input something, it's gonna be something like voltage equals input. What's the overall voltage of the system? So just questions that I'm gonna have to get my actual information, and then output is gonna be something like the overall current across, I don't know, your system is this current is gonna be everything in amps, ohms, and voltage, or standard units. All right, so let's get started. Let's try to see my code. So let's go here. All right, so this is my code. As you can see, I'm only importing math and my user-defined project. Okay, so from here, it says the first thing you're gonna see is welcome to the best current calculator in the world. In this calculator, you will be able to calculate the current of a circuit with a maximum of 5 resistors. All you have to do is input the voltage and resistance for each specific resistor. The maximum number of resistors that can be used in the circuit is 5. So I'm sorry, if your system has more than 5 resistors, this probably won't be the calculator for you, but I use 5 because that seemed like a very good number for like most systems are not gonna have more than 5 resistors because that's like going to a different level. It's gonna be a little bit more advanced, but if this is just like quick math, it'll do it for you. Now, first thing I'm gonna do is input the resistance of the resistors that are in parallel, meaning that once again, a resistor is in parallel if they don't have the same endpoints. If they are in series, you input them later. So first, start with parallel, then go to the ones in series. If your system doesn't have 5 resistors, you can just input a 0 for them, and it'll still do the calculations for you. Now, what's the resistance of the resistor 1 in ohms? So I'm gonna be, let's say, go 10. Then let's go with 9 for number 2, and 8 for number 3, and 7 for number 4, and 6 for number 5. So try that. Now, what's the voltage of the entire circuit? Let's go with 50. Now, how many resistors are in parallel? Let's go with 2. Now, this is for a specific resistor. Now, let's go with, let's see, I have 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Let's go with 8. And the voltage, let's go with 2. Okay, so after you see this is going to be your output messages. From here, the overall resistance of your circuit is going to be 25.74 ohms. Okay, so I have included the output statement, the actual answer, and then the units. Then the overall current of the system is going to be 1.94 amps. And then here, the current across the specific resistor, is 0.25 ohms. If you can see, everything has been typesetted to only 2 decimal places, and it's going to be rounding, so you don't get like weird answers. It's going to be maybe a little bit weird if it's like 0.5, 0.6, but for the most part, it's going to be super correct. Okay, now it's time to show you the real thing, the nitty gritty. Okay, so I have here final project code 1, and this is everything. It's not that bad. So I here have my define function project intro, where you see all the initial statements that I told you that I read, and then here's the math. Here's the important part. Here you have where I have my input first. All the input, I had to input everything as float, because if it wasn't float, here it'll start acting weird and saying that I couldn't do a function with a float and an integer. So everything is float now. I had to set this because sometimes he will tell me that total resistance or total res wasn't defined. So I had to define it first and just equal to 0, then make it a float, and then use it. Now this is my if statement. This is basically telling me that if my resistors, my number of parallel resistors is, let's say, it's 0, that means everything's in series, so I just add them up all together. If it's 2, I have 1 over resistor 1 plus 1 over resistor 2 to the power of -1. This is where my math module comes in, because I couldn't just do a little up arrow -1. It wouldn't work that way, so I'm using power -1. And then just add the series resistors. Same thing for 3 and 4 and 5. And now, if something happens and I don't input a number between 0, 2, 3, 4, or 5, I will get this message and an error message because it just doesn't work. And it's telling you, please try again and enter a valid integer of the following: 0, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0 meaning there's no resistors in parallel. There's no 1 because you can't just have one resistor in parallel. You need to have at least 2. So 0, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, or none, 2, 3, 4, or all 5. From here, this is my math part, where I calculate the current. From here, then this, I'm asking you for the specific resistor. It doesn't even have to be something in these resistors, but it's just easier to, if I'm gonna ask you, I'm assuming you're using something in those resistors, but yeah. Then I'm just making these numbers and typesetting them to 2 decimal places. And then here is everything. Here's how my output is gonna be. Have everything, have these newly defined and rounded and typesetted calculations, and then my units. And now let's do something I didn't do last time. Let's start here. This is something that will happen sometimes. Sometimes it'll just get ahead of itself and ask me first, but this will move down in a minute. Let's go with, I don't know, 5, 8, 7, 3, 4 voltage. Let's go 99. Now here I'm gonna try to make a mistake and see what happens. 56. That's definitely not in 596. That's definitely not in the range of the resistors that I put. So once again, you see this message right here. Please try again and enter. Please try again and enter a valid integer of the following 0, 2, 3, 4, 5. So go back. You run it again. Let's try it with different numbers this time. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. And overall, let's go 100. Number of resistors, let's try to put all the resistors in there. The resistance of the specific one, let's go with, you see, I'm gonna show you. It doesn't even have to be within these resistors. So let's go with, I don't know, 25 and 9. This will be my answer. So overall resistance to the circuit is 1.55 ohms. Overall current is 64.56 amps because this is super low. And then the current across the specific resistor is 0.36 ohms. And let's do one more and that's it. Let's try, let's do a different number this time. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. What's the voltage across the resistor? Let's go with 100. What's the number of resistors in parallel? Let's go with 0. There's no resistors in parallel at all. Resistance of the resistor you'd like to check, let's go with 55, and let's go with 11 for this one. Let's go with easy math. Okay, so the overall resistance is gonna be 15. Because I'm not using any of the complicated resistance calculations, so you're just adding them all up. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 is gonna be 15. And then from here the current is gonna be 6.67 amps, and the current across the specific resistor is gonna be 0.2 because of what I input at the end. 11 divided by 55 is gonna be 0.2, which is the fifth part, so 1/5, 0.2. All right, guys. Really, thank you for watching. I hope you really like this. It's not super complicated, but I figured it was like a decent enough challenge because I just wanted to. It looks nice. It has typesetting. I'm using if loops. So yeah, I hope you liked it. It's not super complicated math. I'm using a little bit of more advanced stuff like math modules. Yeah, hope you liked it. Goodbye.